I want to show you something crazy. According to this chart, Pokemon cards have seen a 3,200% return since 2004. But the S&P 500 only returned 438% in the same period. But the reason for this might surprise you. You see, prices didn't go up just because more people fell in love with the game. And we can't actually blame it all on influencers either. So what really caused the explosion in Pokemon and other collectibles? And why does investing in everything but the stock market feel like the fastest way to profit today?
And I'm about to spend $261 on a Pokemon card.
To you, these might seem like a random bunch of flowers, but really, these tulips can teach us more about economics than any book. Tulips first arrived in Europe in the late 1500s and they quickly became a luxury good. By 1633, a single rare bulb was worth more than an entire house on the most luxurious canal in Amsterdam. But why? You see, tulips are unique in the fact that they start out as bulbs. So instead of just buying flowers to enjoy them, you could now buy the bulbs, store them as the prices went up, and then sell them at a higher price later on. But this all relies on the steady increase in price. Which brings me to this chart. When tulips were first introduced, they were practically worthless. But as time went on and they kept importing them from the Ottoman Empire, they became a luxury item. And as their price began to increase, it wasn't just professional growers buying and selling the tulips anymore. Additionally, middle class and poor Dutch families started piling their money into these tulips, thinking it was their opportunity to make a quick profit. Some of these families took out loans against their house, their business, their estate, all to buy these bulbs. There was no intention to plant these in the ground or enjoy them. It was all a game of how fast could you buy one and then sell it to somebody else for more than you paid. But almost overnight, buyers stopped showing up to the auction, causing some fear in the market, which led to a complete collapse of the tulip prices, taking with it most people's entire life savings. But tulips aren't really the story here because we need to look at something else. This is a Pokemon index and it tracks the overall value of the Pokemon card market. And truthfully, it looks a lot like the tulip chart did before its collapse. We're even seeing a large group of people who are investing their money into the Pokemon card market because of how fast it's gone up in recent years. But what about this? Why would people pile into something knowing what's happened in the past and knowing how volatile these markets can be? Markets and prices are kind of like this balloon. It has an ideal size that it wants to be, but if it's any smaller, it's undervalued. And if it's any bigger, it's overvalued. As the balloon gets bigger and bigger, it starts to become a bubble because the perceived value is exceeding the fundamental value. The only reason the price continues to rise is because buyers think that they can sell it to someone later for more than they paid for it. This is what's called a bubble. And it's exactly what we saw during Tulip Mania in the 1600s. However, calling something a bubble while you're in the bubble is almost impossible. And only a few people have ever gotten that right. But is it what we're seeing right now with Pokemon and collectibles?
All eyes on you, Owen. Chat wants you to win.
Pikachu.
It's
Energy.
crazy.
Energy. Oh!
He did it! German first edition Charizard!
It all started in October of 2020. People were sitting in their homes with nothing to do, and this guy decided to live stream himself opening a first edition Pokemon box.
Then I came across what's called booster boxes. I ended up buying a first edition base set booster box for a world record setting $200,000.
Now, if you're like me and have no idea about any of this stuff, I'll run you through the basics. Pokemon launched in Japan in 1996, but didn't make it to the US until early 1999. The first print in English was called the base set, and the base set had 36 unopened packs, with each pack containing 11 cards, which were 1 basic energy, 6 common cards, 3 uncommon cards, and 1 rare card. The rare card you really want is a holographic Charizard. This was a big deal, and it arguably ignited the entire market we're talking about today. That Charizard was worth about $65,000 to $80,000 the day Logan pulled it. And later that week, a Charizard card of the same caliber sold at auction for $220,000, which is a 240% increase in just 1 week. But Pulling these cards isn't even where the real money is made, because there's a deeper plan to all of this, and one that makes Pokemon a much more sustainable business for a few people. But first, we need to map out how that $220,000 card is now worth almost $1 million. So if we return back to our timeline here, we now know that Logan's first stream is what launched it all. With 15 million views in the first couple weeks, Pokemon went from being some random binders of cards in somebody's closet to the hottest investment on the block. Logan kept doing these streams and spent over $2 million on Pokemon cards from October 2020 to February 2021. Other streamers and YouTubers joined in, and Pokemon unboxings became content in itself. Couple this with bored people at home with fresh COVID stimulus money, and you get a market that's ready to spend a lot of money very quickly, all in hopes of a quick profit. Does this remind you of anything? But this part of the chart is interesting. In 2022, the market started to collapse, partially because the COVID stimulus money dried up and interest rates were rising everywhere, but also because the Pokemon company was printing as many cards as they possibly could to keep up with demand, which drove the prices of modern cards down by 40 to 60%. But then something changed. Right around here, Pokemon went institutional. Heritage auctions and golden auctions launched their own Pokemon departments, and investment funds that specialized in collectibles began adding Pokemon cards to their portfolios. Pair that with the reports that Pokemon outpaced the stock market by over 3,000%, and the race was on again to drive the market even higher. But this time, it was a more mature market with more mature players that created massive businesses off the back of it. One of those businesses is Whatnot.
You're not selling on Whatnot and you're a reseller, you are completely missing out. Let me explain.
Whatnot was founded in 2019 as a high-end Craigslist-style platform, but they quickly realized that the real money was going to be made in live stream shopping. And in January of 2025, after raising an additional $265 million, they set their eyes on the Pokemon market. At this point, they were already a major player in the collectible space, but this funding gave them even more marketing capital to throw at the Pokemon influencers and buyers. This is right around when we started seeing YouTubers and other live streamers post sponsored content for Whatnot. And it drove most of the market to Whatnot to buy and sell Pokemon cards. The more creators talking about it, the more people wanted to be involved, and viewers were now watching creators pull cards worth thousands of dollars on live streams, which only pushed the values even higher. And it also made the cards impossible to find or buy because they were completely sold out everywhere, mostly thanks to one group of individuals.
Super Scalper, what's up?
Okay, cool.
Anybody else?
So let's go see if we can find any cards at a store.
This also gives me the perfect opportunity to thank today's sponsor, Chime. Chime is America's #1 choice for banking, offering a smarter way to manage your money. And since they don't have any Pokemon cards here, I might as well pick up some snacks. And thanks to my Chime card, I get 5% cash back on the category of my choice. For this month, I chose groceries, but I'll be traveling most of the next month, and thanks to my Chime card, I can simply switch my cashback category from groceries to travel for the month. Speaking of travel, you even get lounge access and 24/7 travel concierge included with your Chime card. Other than earning cash back, Chime also makes your money work harder with their high-yield savings account, which earns 3.75% APY, with no monthly fees and no minimum balance requirements.
I'll be honest, when I first set out on this mission, I was expecting to at least find a card or two, but there is nothing in any of these stores.
So if I had $10,000 in my Chime savings account at a 3.75% APY, I'd be earning $382 per year, which is a lot more than the national average of 0.38% APY, which would only earn me about $38 per year. Having a high yield savings account is one of the least stressful ways to grow your wealth, and I was shocked to find out that 82% of Americans don't even use one. So if that's you, join the millions who are already banking fee-free today. Just click the link in the description below or simply scan the QR code right here. Thank you to Chime for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back and open these up. All right.
This is the Pokemon TCG Prismatic Evolutions Booster Bundle, and it MSRPs for $24.99. But I was not lucky enough to pay that price. In fact, it was hard to just find these in stock at a store, and it cost me $85, which is $60 above the MSRP when it launched. But on Amazon, these bundles are selling for $110, or if you open it up and sell the booster bundles inside by themselves, they sell for $21 a piece, or $126 total, which is strange because usually things like this will just go out of stock at the MSRP price instead of the retailers raising the prices to match the resale prices. But this group of Pokemon fans had to ruin it for everybody else. Meet the scalpers. Know them, love them, or hate them. Scalpers have a way of ruining just about anything that people really love. But in the Pokemon world, they've reached new heights. You can't even find these things in the store, and the launch days are pure chaos. Not to mention, the resale prices have continued to climb, and it's gotten so bad that the topic of scalpers is even coming up in Nintendo shareholder meetings. Scalpers will join a Discord server and pay anywhere from $10 to $200 per month to get price and drop alerts of new cards in their area. Then they go and buy as many cards as possible before anyone else can get their hands on them, only to immediately turn around and resell them at a higher price, which drives the overall market value of Pokemon cards even higher and has encouraged retailers to cash in on the markups before scalpers do. GameStop in particular is at the center of this problem, listing some of their Pokemon products 200% over MSRP. And with the upcoming 30th anniversary collections, they're already marking them up by 300 to 400% and collecting deposits on the items before they've even launched. That's also why I was forced to pay $85 for my $25 pack from Dick's Sporting Goods. I can't really blame these companies for marking up the prices because I would at least hope it reduces the sheer chaos from the scalpers, but I couldn't imagine being a kid or having a kid that just genuinely likes the game and wants the cards. Yet every store they walk into is sold out because of the scalpers. So at least with the markups, parents have a shot of getting some cards, even though they're going to have to overpay. But at this point, we've talked a lot about the box, but what about the cards inside of the box? Let's see what cards we got. $85 worth of cards. I don't know if this is any good. 70 cents. Okay, so these are all just useless. All right. Oh, $13. We have one. So far, we're losing quite a bit of money. This one's kind of cool. 24 cents. All right. Nothing worthwhile in there. Last one. Oh, I think this is actually worth something. Watch me be completely wrong. Let's see. 45 cents. Never mind. Okay, cool. So after all of that, we got one card worth some money. On its own right now, this is selling for about $13 on eBay, but it's currently ungraded, which means it's not as valuable as it could be. But this card is graded. As you can see here, this is a grade 9 in mint condition. The grading scale runs from 1 all the way up to 10, with 10 being the highest grade that you can get. After opening our pack here, I could send these cards in to be graded, and if it got a perfect 10, this card would then be worth about $120. There are a few companies that do this, but the most popular ones are PSA, CGC, and BGS. PSA's parent company is also currently working on acquiring BGS, which would give them control over roughly 79% of the trading card market. So there's a story there, but that's for a different day. If we return to our card here, we could send it into PSA, and it would be graded on how centered the image is, the condition of the corners and edges, and whether the surface has any imperfections or defects. Our little enriching energy here has a PSA 9, which means it's near perfect, but there's a slight problem somewhere on it to not make it a 10. Full transparency, although this looks nice because it's in a case or slab as they call it, I only paid about $12 for this because I'm not about to start a hobby of collecting Pokemon cards. That said, there is another problem here. If I wanted to get this card graded, it doesn't just happen for free. The cheapest option at PSA is $80 per card, and it'll take 40 to 50 days to happen, which means whoever graded this card probably lost some money on it. But their loss is my reward, and now I have my very own PSA 9 enriching energy. Something that seems to have been forgotten during all of this is that this is a kid's game. It was never meant to be an asset class. These cards were originally collected because someone thought it looked cooler than the other, or because it beat another card when playing it as a game. But now it's no longer about collecting, and it's not even really about investing anymore either. Remember Whatnot and how they used part of their funding to take over the Pokemon resale world? Well, they didn't do that through live selling. They did it by building a gambling app disguised as a shopping app. Whatnot uses an auction-based system, but the weird part is when you're watching these Pokemon streamers, you're not actually buying the cards, you're buying the pack break. And this whole process is what's called auction fever. Basically, where all rational thought for the buyer goes out the door and they start bidding based on their emotional state. As the quick auction draws to a close, all you have to do is swipe this little bar at the bottom and place your bid, which gets people to consistently overspend according to this study. But going back to what I was just saying, on most of these Pokemon streams, you're not even buying the cards you're seeing. Instead, buyers bid for pack breaks, and whoever wins that auction then gets credits to the seller's store based on what cards are pulled in the pack. So at its simplest level, you're bidding in an auction to spin a slot machine. And even outside of Whatnot, Pokemon as a whole is just becoming one giant gambling project. You're gambling on what cards are in the pack, you're gambling on the condition of the cards, and you're gambling that the prices of the cards will continue to go up. And now, retailers like GameStop are becoming the house, and they're building the odds in their favor as they continue to mark up the prices. And couple that with the young men everywhere who have obsessive personalities and gambling addictions, and you have a recipe for disaster. But like I mentioned earlier, bidding on and collecting these cards is only half of the problem. The real players in the game have figured out even more ways to make money. And it all starts with this.
What kind of moron spends $200,000 on a box of Pokemon cards? I was able to make my money back. Here's the difference. Although this is a gamble, the product appreciates.
It's pretty much gambling for everybody except for the guy opening the box. Because as you heard him say, he sold all of these packs.
Well, how the tables have turned, because my friends bought some of the packs that I sold today.
Remember, the box only cost him $200,000, but he sold each pack within the box
for $11,111.
And if we do some simple math here, we'll see that Logan walked away with a $200,000 in profit, with zero risk to him on what happens when he actually opens the packs. A few months later, he did the same thing, this time paying $350,000 for the box and auctioning off the cards inside of it, which netted him a profit this time of over $1 million. The buyers of these packs were able to come up during this live stream before he opened their pack and give their marketing spiel or just plug their channel or something. So I guess you could call it marketing spend. And in no way am I saying that these people that bought these packs got scammed or something. They all knew the risk going into it, and they knew that they could walk away with nothing, which is pretty similar to someone playing roulette in Vegas. But the more important thing here is the outside effects of everything happening. During this event, you have hundreds of thousands of people watching people basically play the lottery, and some of them walking away with very valuable cards. They also sold a Pokemon card for over $16 million during this whole event, which only added fuel to the fire for everybody sitting back at home, imagining themselves digging up their Pokemon cards from 2008 and selling one for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But still, they weren't able to really get involved with the action because they had to have a lot of money to afford one of these packs until now.
Rip It just launched, but I got high hopes for this company, literally putting my entire life force into it. You want to pick yourself up a Charizard? Go rip packs. You could do it right now.
Welcome to Rip It. These are digital packs that you pay a set price for and get one card out of. As you can see, the prices range anywhere from $25 to $1,000. These are similar to the pack breaks he does on live streams, but they're cheaper and easier to access, making them a great option for someone who can't afford the big game. But the problem is, this is basically just a lottery system. Sure, you might win, but the odds are stacked for you to win a lot less than you would spend, and to prove it, let's rip a pack. All right, so as you can see here, we are inside of Rip It currently, and the packs start at $25 and go all the way up to $1,000 for the master pack. I have no desire to spend $1,000 on this, and frankly, I have no desire to spend even $25 on this, but I guess for the video, maybe we do the America 250 pack, potentially. I feel like this is gambling, and I really don't like gambling, but shall we waste some money? I think we shall. Let's do it. Oh, and they charge you a fee? What? So not only do I have to pay $250 for the pack, but now I have to pay an $11.88 fee for what? All right, here we go. Did we lose money? Ta-da, what is it? Hey, okay, we didn't lose, well, we lost money. Yeah, no, we did lose money. We got one that is worth $255. We can sell it back to them right now for $230, which means that they will have made about $30 to $40 off of us between the fees and selling it. So I hope I can get my money out of this platform now. I hope I don't just like now have $230 in credits. So let's sell it now. I don't want it. So my funds are in my wallet. Can I get my funds out of my wallet? Are you kidding me? They're gonna charge me another fee to take my money out after I've already paid a fee to rip the card? This is gonna take 2 weeks for me to get my money back, and they're charging me $12 to just do that. And I already paid $12 to buy the card. No wonder Logan Paul is so rich. Like, I guess we will take our money back. And apparently you have to contact support to actually withdraw your money. Awesome, awesome, great. Oh, and when you click contact support, it just takes you to their FAQ page. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna figure this out later, and I now have $230 stuck on Rip It.
It's now been a little over a week. I have emailed support about 3 times and gotten no response, and my money is still stuck. So definitely beware of this website if you're thinking about putting money into it.
On with the video. To be clear, I'm not saying or alleging that there is anything illegal about this, but just because it's legal doesn't mean it's a good thing. These digital packs make it way too easy for someone who has a gambling problem to just throw money away. And when you pair it with live streaming online, social media buzz around Pokémon, and the economy being worse for wear, you start to see a familiar setup. Remember, during Tulip Mania, everyone was dumping their money into tulips because they thought the price could never go down. After all,
The product appreciates.
until it doesn't. Collectibles like Pokemon and other trading cards are a lot of fun, and I'm not judging anyone who enjoys the process. But if you're relying on it exclusively as an investment vehicle and hoping the price just keeps going up, there's a pretty high likelihood that you could get caught holding the bag when the entire market comes crashing down. Just remember to learn from history and sell while you're making a profit, because there is no shame in that. But there is a lot of shame in holding on to something thinking that it's going to continue into infinity only to end up losing all of your money. But with that said, YouTube thinks you might also like this video. Let's see if they're right.